Happy Monday. Happy very rainy Monday out there today. Rainy and windy. Well, today I know it's a little darker in here because of the weather, so hopefully you can see okay. But we're going to go ahead and check back in with our story with Ralph S. Mouse. And if you remember, we had just left off in the story where Ralph was going to make a big decision. He had it with having to share his motorcycle, and he thinks he's going to do something a little different here. So we'll see if we can find out what his big decision is. In Chapter 2, Ralph's Decision. After his strenuous night of riding through puddles, fending off his relatives, trying to repair his motorcycle. Remember, it had come loose with all those cousins pulling and tugging. Trying to repair his motorcycle and rebuild his nest, Ralph napped soundly. He was awakened by the angry voice of Mr. Minch, the hotel manager, speaking to Mrs. Bramble, Ryan's mother. "Look at that floor," Mr. Minch was saying. "Disgraceful." "It certainly does need a good cleaning," agreed Mrs. Bramble. "Where's Matt?" demanded Mr. Minch. "Keeping this lobby clean is his responsibility." Worried because his friend was in trouble, Ralph peeped out from under the clock and saw Matt, unaware of the manager's displeasure, enter the lobby. "Morning, Mrs. Bramble, Mr. Minch," Matt said. "It sure is pretty outside with the sun shining on the snow and the sky so blue. Different than out there today." Mr. Minch ignored this greeting. "Matt," he said, and his voice was stern. "Take a good look at this floor. Dried mud on the linoleum floor. Mouse droppings, all over the place. It's a disgrace. And the whole lobby, well, smells kind of mousy." "That's funny," thought Ralph. "I can't smell a thing." Matt looked at the floor. "Well, I'll be jiggered," he said. "How do you suppose that happened? It looked clean enough last night." Liar, thought Ralph with affection. He knew Matt would never say something bad about the mice. "Never mind how it happened," said Mr. Minch. "Exactly what do you plan to do about it?" "Now take it easy, Mr. Minch," said Matt. "I'll have this place cleaned up in no time." "See that you do," said Mr. Minch. "This may not be a first-class hotel, but there is no excuse for a dirty lobby. I realize that late arrivals often leave muddy floors, but mouse droppings? Oh! If I continue to find signs of mice, I shall have to let you go." Well, that's not fair, thought Ralph, who did not want to lose a loyal friend that he had in Matt, and had been part of the hotel as long as he could remember, much longer than either Mr. Minch or Ryan's mother. Most employees did not stay long at the Mountain View Inn. "Yes, sir," the cheer had gone out of Matt's voice. Ralph, who had come from a long line of intelligent mice, knew that most of his relatives had learned to avoid traps and poisons. He was not so sure about his littlest relatives, however. What was left after traps and poisons? Cats. Ralph shuddered at the thought of bloodthirsty cats stalking his innocent little brothers, sisters, and cousins. He did have quite the run-in with cats, though, after all. The littlest one, who always became entangled in the carpet fringe, would be the first to go. Oh, what a terrible thought. A skier who was looking at the headlines on the newspapers on the rack near the door overheard the conversation between Matt and Mr. Minch. "There's a new electronic mouser on the market," he volunteered. "It makes a noise that only mice can hear, and it drives them out of the building in a hurry." "I'll look into it. Something has to be done around here," said Mr. Minch as he returned to his office. Uh-oh. Ralph shuddered at the thought of an electronic mouser sending his family screaming into the snow to freeze to death. I know, right? Scary. Mrs. Bramble wanted to say something pleasant to Matt after the unhappy incident. "One good thing about the ski crowd," she remarked. "They may track in snow, but they don't bother to drip dry a lot of clothes and clutter up the bathrooms." With that cheerful remark, she went upstairs to count sheets and towels in the linen room. "More like a fourth-rate hotel, if you ask me," muttered Matt, who had seen better days. He was dragging out the old vacuum cleaner. "Old Minch will never spend a nickel on an electronic mouser. How am I supposed to get rid of mice? Say, 'Please, mousies, go away,' so old Mr. High and Mighty won't throw me out in the cold." As the vacuum cleaner whirred back and forth across the carpet, Matt looked so worried that Ralph actually began to worry too. What if the old man really did lose his job in the middle of the winter? Where would he go? And what would Ralph do without his friend? He noticed that in spite of his worries, Matt did not run the vacuum cleaner near the hems of the curtains, a favorite hiding place of the mice. Ralph sat back on his haunches and began his morning grooming. As he wiped his paws over his whiskers, he suddenly had a most unhappy thought. He was to blame for Matt's trouble. If he had been an ordinary mouse without a motorcycle, all of his little relatives would not have come flocking out into the lobby. They would have lived upstairs, snug in their nests behind all the baseboards, growing fat on crumbs from all the food skiers smuggled into their rooms to avoid the high dining room prices. Are you smuggling some food too? Trying to smuggle some food from Ollie? I don't think Ollie's gonna let you. You're gonna share? Oh, nice brothers. Nice donkeys. Ralph paused in his washing to think. If he moved back upstairs, his relatives would follow. But what about his motorcycle? He couldn't leap a flight of stairs with it. Neither could he leave it behind. Never. If he left it behind, some of his older cousins would grab it and stay in the lobby, at least until they wore it out or wrecked it. And the younger relatives would stay too. What was Ralph to do? He was still turning over this problem in his mind when the clock above him ground and groaned and managed to bring out 8 bongs. Bong, 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 bong. Bong, bong, bong. There we go, we got it. Right on schedule, Ryan came running into the lobby, warmly dressed to go to that mysterious place known as school. He was carrying his books and his lunch in a backpack. Ralph admired his boots. The muddy floor caught Ryan's attention. He studied the mud, and when Matt left to fetch a mop, he got down on the floor in front of the clock and pressed his cheek against the floor so that he could speak to Ralph. Hey, I saw your tire tracks, he whispered. I bet you had a great time last night. Yeah, except for a bunch of little mice, said Ralph. What's the matter? Ryan asked him. You sound unhappy. Suddenly, Ralph knew what he had to do. He thought fast, which was easy for him. Mice often have to think fast to survive. Look, Ryan, he said, I'm in trouble, and I don't have time to tell you about it. Just take me and my motorcycle with you and don't ask any questions. To school? Ryan was surprised. Come on, begged Ralph. We're friends, aren't we? Sure, we're friends, agreed Ryan, but there's no time for buts, said Ralph, who knew Ryan would soon have to leave to catch the school bus. Well, okay, if you say so, said Ryan. By the time okay had passed Ryan's lips, Ralph was wheeling his motorcycle with his crash helmet dangling from the handlebars. I'll stay out of sight, he assured his friend. There must be some place I can live at the school. Ryan stuffed the motorcycle into one pocket of his parka and picked Ralph up carefully so he wouldn't smash his tiny little ribs. You mean you want to stay at school? Uh-oh, this doesn't sound like a good idea. Yes, said Ralph, suddenly frightened by his decision. There must be some place I can hide there. Ryan thought a moment. Well, there is one of Melissa Hopper's boots. You could hide there. Doesn't she wear the boots? Asked Ralph, picturing himself squashed in the toe of a boot by the foot of Melissa, whoever she was. No, not if she can help it, said Ryan. Melissa hates her boots, so she leaves them at school. That way her mother can't make her wear them. Oh, uh-oh, that's a bad idea. A sensible girl, thought Ralph. Mrs. Bramble came bustling back into the lobby. Ryan, what on earth are you doing on your knees? You should be on your way out to the highway or you'll miss your bus. Just, checking the floor for dust, fibbed Ryan as he quickly slid Ralph into his parka pocket. Bye, Mom! And he ran out the door and went crunching through the snow to the highway. Ryan must have had second thoughts about taking Ralph to school. He said, I guess Mrs. K won't mind. Who's Miss K? Asked Ralph. My teacher, explained Ryan. Her real name is Miss Kuchenbacker, but she told us to call her Miss K because calling her Miss Kuchenbacker would take up too much classroom time. Oh, said Ralph, mystified. To Ralph, school was a strange and mysterious place. When he had been a very young mouse, Ralph had pictured school as something like a bus, because mothers and fathers who arrived at the hotel with several children after a long, hot drive across the Sacramento Valley or the long, winding ride over the Sierra Nevada often said, "I will be so glad when school starts." Ralph had naturally concluded that because school started, it must move like a car. You start a car, you must start school, right? As Ralph had grown more sophisticated from listening to children, he came to understand that children moved. Schools stood still. Later on, he learned that some grown-ups called teachers also went to school. Some of these teachers stayed in the hotel during the summer. As far as Ralph could see, teachers behaved like ordinary people, except that, unlike parents, they said, "Oh dear, school will be starting soon." Not possible. Ralph found a clue as to what teachers did in that mysterious place from a television commercial shown several times a day. In it, a woman who said she was a teacher held a tube of toothpaste in her hand as she walked around saying, "Toothpaste doesn't excite me. Good checkups excite me." This remark puzzled Ralph, however. When he had lived upstairs, he had once tasted toothpaste when a careless guest left the cap off of the tube. He found himself foaming and frothing at the mouth as he skittered around frantically trying to find water, while one of the maids ran down the hall shrieking, "Mad mouse! Mad mouse!" No, Ralph could not agree with the television teacher. Toothpaste was exciting. "This Miss K," said Ralph as Ryan reached the bus stop. "Is she okay?" "Yeah, she's pretty good." Ryan stamped his feet to keep them warm. "She thinks up interesting things for us to do for language arts. Like, our school is named the Irwin J. Sneed Elementary School. And last week she had us write a composition about who we thought Irwin J. Sneed was and why the town of Cucaracha, California named its school after him." Ryan scooped up a handful of snow, squeezed it into a ball, and threw it at the branch of a pine tree. Snow slid off the branch and fell with a soft plop. "Some kids made Irwin J. Sneed a monster from outer space," continued Ryan. "But I made him a horse thief back in the gold rush days when Cucaracha was a mining town. I said he was the first person to go to jail in Cucaracha, so they named the school after him. Miss K gets real excited about Cucaracha being a gold rush town with a lot of history." "Oh," said Ralph, puzzled. "Who was Irwin J. Sneed, actually?" Well, just some old guy on the school board when the school was built back in the 1970s, explained Ryan as he made another snowball. Ralph could make no sense of this information at all. As the snowball made one more snow plop from a branch to the ground, Ryan had a sudden thought. "I'd better be careful about taking you to school, or people will think I'm nuts." "Maybe some of them could understand me," suggested Ralph. "They might even like to see me ride my motorcycle." Ryan considered. "You'd better not go showing off. Somebody might steal your motorcycle, or maybe everybody would start bringing mice and motorcycles to school. I don't think that would be a great idea. A whole school full of mice tearing around on motorcycles? One mouse can get by, but not a lot of mice. You know how some people get all worked up about mice." As the school bus came rambling down the highway, Ralph had to agree from his hotel experience that Ryan was right. One mouse, or maybe even two or three, could get by. Many mice could not. "Say," he said, "you don't suppose there are already mice in this place?" "No," said Ryan, as the bus stopped in front of him. "Mr. Costa keeps our school too clean for mice." Of course, Ralph's feelings were hurt. "Remember to keep out of sight," were Ryan's last words to Ralph as he climbed on the bus. Deep inside the coat pocket, Ralph felt sad, brave, and noble, frightened and bewildered, really confused. He felt sad because there had been no time to say goodbye to Matt. He felt brave and noble because he was going out into the strange world and would protect the safety of his little relatives. He felt frightened and bewildered because so much had happened so fast. Yet the inside of the pocket was cozy. In the deepest corner, Ralph found the dried-up raisin that would have made an excellent breakfast if he had not been so nervous about what lay ahead at the mysterious place, the Irwin J. Sneed Elementary School. He nipped a tiny bite of the raisin and told himself school, yes, a little raisin, not a carrot, Milo, raisin. He nipped a tiny bite of the raisin, and, oh, yes, raisins for you guys too. They must like raisins. He nipped a tiny bite of raisin and told himself school must be safe because so many children went there. "Of course I will be all right," he told himself, pretending to be brave. but I will be careful to stay away from Miss K's toothpaste. He's not so sure about that. He thinks toothpaste is way too exciting. Well, speaking of exciting things, friends, I'm going to leave you hanging there, and Chapter 3 is going to be called Irwin J. Sneed Elementary School. And we're going to get a chance to continue reading that tomorrow. But for now, or I should say on Thursday, but for now, I'll remind you to keep up the exciting work, just as Ralph said, in our Google Classroom. I look forward to meeting with you all this week on Tuesday, and then again on Thursday too. So don't forget to check the classroom for sign-up sheets to sign up for the Thursday meeting. I'll be sure to have those in the classroom on Wednesday for you, so you can sign up ahead of time. Keep up the great work in our classroom, and don't forget to look for moments where you can show caring and kindness to others around you during this time. I will talk to you all very soon. See you later, guys.